Well, TCU gave the Big 12 its biggest win in well over a decade. Are the Frogs now poised to be the power of this new league? Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Apologies for not getting you a live show last night. I was on my way back from New Orleans. Didn't get back until about 10 o'clock last night. A 13-hour day of driving. It was a lot, but I'm here, and I want to make sure that I give you guys some content before the midweek live coming up. If you're new to the channel, talk college football all the time here. We talk Big 12 football. We talk conference realignment. You're going to get things from a Big 12 slant here on this channel. Please consider subscribing if you have not, and watch out for the live shows on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. TCU wins, man. They beat Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl. They are headed to the national championship game to play Georgia, and there are far-reaching implications from this game as far as the conference is concerned. What a huge win for the respect of the league. Not just because TCU won it, although that is a huge part of it. The Big 12 had never won a college football playoff game before this. Oklahoma, no. Texas, not even close. It's TCU, the team that becomes the first from the state of Texas and the first in the Big 12 to win a college football playoff game. But it's not just all that. It's the way that it happened. This was not some fluky win for the Frogs, right? We had a lot of wild things happening in this game, but TCU led wire to wire. They jumped out 21-3. They led by as many as 19. This was never a game where you felt like Michigan had it totally in control. Now, again, a lot of wild things happened. A 44-point third quarter. 44-point third quarter. Hey, look, you put Big 12 teams into the college football playoff, you get wildly entertaining college football playoff games. How about that? But, yeah, TCU losing an 18-point lead, 2 pick sixes, 2 fumbles, a 76-yard touchdown pass. There were 8 scores in 8 minutes. A record-setting 59-yard field goal, which gets forgotten there at the end of the first half. Just an insane field goal that Michigan hit. And then the highest combined score in Fiesta Bowl history. That's how wild this game was. But I think as many points as there were, you can really boil this down to TCU being the more physical team. And that being the reason that they won. And that's what Michigan was billed as. This physical behemoth. This monstrosity with the best offensive line in college football. They won the award for that. And they didn't seem to have a whole lot of respect for Big 12 defenses and TCU going into the game. But TCU did a great job on both sides of the line of scrimmage. First of all, they rushed for 263 yards on a top 5 rushing defense in college football, and that was doing so in large part without Kendre Miller, who got hurt and went out of the game early. I mean, when that happens, you're thinking TCU might really be in some trouble. Nope, didn't matter. They still run for 263 yards on a top 5 rush defense. They had 13 TFLs as a defense, not to mention the 2 pick sixes where they were just flying all over the place. But 13 TFLs to 3 for Michigan. If we're talking about games that just dispel a lot of these BS Big 12 myths, this is one of them, man, with what TCU was able to do in terms of being a tough team against Michigan, which was their biggest strength. That was what everybody loved about Michigan, that they will just beat you up with the physicality that they have on offense and defense. And TCU, with a defensive line that was built up in the transfer portal this season, was able to get a lot done in the trenches on both sides. And I think that is one of the things I love the most about this. Nothing fluky about the way that TCU just won that game. And they got to completely clown on some folks with this win. All right, let's remember our guy Chris Sims, okay? The lesser of 2 Texas quarterbacks during his time there. In fact, very emblematic of Texas when he was a player there. Should never have played over Major Applewhite, and Texas was still always trying to shoehorn him in there. But Chris Sims, of course, a couple of weeks ago had the quote on Twitter, TCU in the college football playoff, the Big 12 sucks, and I played in the Big 12. I know what the resumes are, but the middle class of the SEC would win the Big 12. That is just, it is the dumbest talking point. We've now seen it a couple times. Barrett Sally, Chris Sims, here this postseason. Dumbest thing in the world. We saw what happened with Tech Ole Miss. Okay, we saw what happened with Arkansas, Kansas. The middle of the SEC is not winning the Big 12. Shut the hell up. We can stop with that. And Chris Sims, I don't know whether or not to say to his credit, has not offered any sort of retribution or apology in the aftermath of this, even though it's getting dragged again on Twitter. I guess I can respect just sticking to your guns, whatever, and not saying anything. But I don't know. You think that would be one that would require him saying something. If TCU wins the national title, we better get the Chris Sims apology tweet, or else I'll sick every single one of you guys on him. We had the Stephen A. Smith a couple weeks ago on with Feinbaum, where he's just talking about, USC, you know, we did get USC in there, and worry about that, and Alabama. I mean, there was one where he just yelled about Alabama, like no real other discernible words. It was just Alabama, very emphatically over and over again about who should have been in the college football playoff. And look, Bama made a pretty convincing case. I saw it in person. that they were good enough to be, but they lost 2 games. All right, Stephen A. clearly not watching any college football, clearly not watching any TCU football this year. Paul Feinbaum certainly does, and he had the more embarrassing one where he's shading TCU. No one's going to watch the Big 12 championship game. More people watched it at its peak than any other game on championship weekend, and now the Frogs are here winning a college football playoff game. So they shut a lot of people the hell up, and it feels great for Frogs fans to be able to watch that happen, because it also does so on the behalf of the Big 12, and that is the other part of this that's really great. I've tallied this list together since Oklahoma and Texas announced their departure in July 2021. The Big 12 has had back-to-back Big 12 title games without either of them in it, and both of those games had 8 million plus watching. Again, the one this year had more people watching concurrently than any other game on conference championship weekend. You have back-to-back teams in the college football playoff. Like, literally, it took Oklahoma and Texas announcing for the Big 12 to get 2 teams into the playoff, Cincinnati and TCU. So not only are there 2 teams from this new league that have been in, but 2 different teams. And this is in the 4-team playoff still. We're not to the 12-team playoff. And you're showing that you can have different programs from the conference be able to make it there. Now you get the first college football playoff win ever, something Baker Mayfield didn't do, something Jalen Hurts didn't do, something Kyler Murray didn't do, something Lincoln Riley didn't do, all those things. Garrett Riley instead is doing it as the offensive coordinator for the Horned Frogs. Big 12's also had 3 New Year's 6 bowl wins, none of which courtesy of Oklahoma and Texas. Signed a TV deal with Fox and ESPN that's going to get the schools $32 million apiece, which is more than what they're currently making. The original projection said it'll be 50% or less, so that's been a huge win. And just everything is moving in a positive direction right now for the league. And you got probably the strongest individual piece outside of the TV deal on that whole list. I'd say the strongest individual piece of that so far has been TCU winning the playoff game. That is the currency. That is how you start to legitimately earn respect. And it's perfect timing for this to be happening right now with the league about to embark on the new 14-team league for, it sounds like, 1 year next year, and then the new 12-team league after that with Texas and Oklahoma gone. It's going to help in future at-large discussions, which will be tricky. I mean, the Big 12 looks like they're pretty much going to get 1 team in every single year with the expanded playoff based on the conference champions, the top 6 getting in. However, if there are ever going to be at-large discussions, having some cachet and some credibility, like, hey, we've had teams that have actually been to that 4-team playoff and won games, that will really help. It could help TCU on down the road, but it also can be helping the next Big 12 school that's going to be in the conversation. I mean, what TCU did is to the point where, I'm reading some of the reaction of this. They really are firing a strike across the bow of the huge Stars Matter crowd. Now, don't get me wrong, stars do matter, and generally in recruiting, what we've seen is you have to have a certain amount of 4- and 5-star recruits to win the national championship. That's basically been the reality here. In fact, since online recruiting rankings began in 2000, only 3 teams have ever won a national championship without signing a top 5 class any of the previous 4 cycles. 2010 Auburn, so Cam Newton was probably the difference there. 2016 Clemson, Deshaun Watson, probably the difference there. 2018 Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, probably the difference there. So either have a totally transcendent quarterback that's an unbelievable talent, or have a top 5 recruiting class. And plus, all 3 of those exceptions all had top 10 recruiting classes. So anyway, that's the level at which you've been having to recruit to legitimately win a national championship. But Ari Wasserman, who's kind of the guy that really touts Stars Matter more than anybody for The Athletic, even wrote a piece where, hey, TCU's challenging me here. I may have to back off. We may have to reevaluate. 24/7 Sports keeps a talent composite of all the teams in the country. TCU was 32nd. So 32nd in the talent composite, not that top 5 to 10, which is where everybody is looking these days for a national champ. And the thing about giving hope to everybody else is TCU being in the championship game at number 32 in the talent composite. TCU was at 18 this year. Tech was at 25. Baylor at 30. K-State at 36. Not in the overall talent composite, but these are the recruiting classes these schools brought in this year. So that should give you hope. If you can continue to recruit at that level, you're recruiting at the same level TCU was to get to the national championship game. Okay? That should be giving hope to everybody that it's not totally impossible. And it's felt like, and I think it is reality, that the portal and NIL has actually spread out the distribution of talent a little bit. It is giving backups at Alabama and Georgia more of a chance to go shine other places, spreading out some of that talent. I think we may continue to kind of drift toward a little bit more parity at the top of the sport in college football. Now, the part of that will get tough is the expanded playoff. You're having to win an extra playoff game potentially there. That could make it more difficult for a team that gets into the playoff deep. But if more teams are making it, getting a chance for playoff exposure, spaces out the recruiting a little bit more. You can still sell, hey, you can play for a championship, get to the playoff games by coming to our school. I think gradually over time, that's the formula. And getting teams like TCU in there at least every once in a while is going to be a part of the formula too. So the Frogs, I think, have not only done themselves proud, they have done the Big 12 proud, and they frankly have done the game of college football proud with what it is that they did by winning that game. Might be the most unlikely champ in modern history. Picked 7th in the Big 12, 200-1 odds to even make the playoff at the beginning of the year. They're already opening as a 13-point dog in the national championship game, which is the largest point spread for any college football playoff or BCS title game. Miami was a 12-point favorite over Ohio State in 2002. But what happened in that game? Now, kind of a BS call, but Miami did lose that game to Ohio State. So, look, I would have preferred to see the opponent, by the way, been Ohio State for TCU in the title game. But, hey, talk about opportunities for respect. To be the best, you got to beat the best. You got to go through Georgia. Georgia has 68 4- or 5-star players on its roster compared to 17 for TCU. That was not as stark a difference with Michigan. Georgia's kind of a souped-up version of Michigan. We'll see if that difference is overcomable for the Frogs. I think the last question, we could explore this more in the upcoming live shows, but the last question that is very pertinent here is TCU now going to rise up and be the team in this new league? Let me read you a little bit from Stuart Mandel, actually. He said, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark must be a very happy man right now. The first Big 12 team to win a playoff game was not named Oklahoma or Texas. Win or lose next Monday, TCU just delivered a giant jolt of credibility for the new Big 12. This is the Oregon circa 2010 or Clemson circa 2015 moment when a program's national profile completely flips. So that's interesting, comparing it to Oregon when they broke through and played for a national championship and became the Oregon that we think of today. Clemson, when they broke through and started their run where they were at the top of the sport, jockeying back and forth with Alabama for 4 or 5 years there. This, according to Mandel, is TCU's moment. I think it's very possible that it is. TCU could take advantage of what's really a power vacuum in this league right now with Oklahoma and Texas leaving. And a big reason for that, I was saying it already, like TCU, before all this, I mean, they were recruiting at the 3rd highest level in the league for a long time. Pretty consistently, Gary Patterson was recruiting the 3rd best recruiting class in the league behind Texas and Oklahoma. So that, in and of itself, would tell you that TCU would have as high a ceiling as basically anybody in the new league just because of the talent they're bringing in. Proximity to DFW sure helps out a ton as far as that is concerned. Well, now they signed a top 20 class this year. They're killing it in the portal, taking guys from Alabama, by the way, in the portal, becoming a hot destination there. They've got a quarterback coming back next year in Chandler Morris, who beat out the Heisman finalist Max Duggan at the beginning of the year for the starting job. And it appears they've now just got a coach who gets it more than Gary Patterson did at the end of his career, and has been able to inject some life into that program. There is a lot there. They're always going to have built-in advantages that pretty much nobody else in the league really has being in DFW. Yes, there are other major metros. I think DFW would be tops in terms of where you would probably want to be as far as a talent standpoint goes. So parlay the momentum of a playoff win with already recruiting very strong, with having Chandler Morris in the fold, Sonny Dykes seemingly getting it, TCU already being a place that shows you can consistently recruit better than anybody that's going to be left in this league. And even on top of that, if you want to put one other little thing on top of this, like Sonny Dykes, who I'm sure will just start generating attention nationally for the job that he's done. He's the son of a Texas Tech head coach, right? He's a Texas guy, spent a lot of time in Texas. I would think you're going to be more likely to hang on to him because of the location of the school and the fact that he's always been such a guy that really seems to love the state of Texas. And when he ventured out of that, was the head coach of Cal, things were just kind of, didn't go all that well. So there may be a better chance that TCU can keep him around. I think betting favorite right now has to be TCU to win more Big 12 championships in the first 5 to 10 years of this new league than anybody else. I think they've established enough there with some of their built-in obvious advantages that they also have. But we can talk a lot more about this. We'll get to it in the live shows. I apologize I wasn't able to get you a live show here on Sunday. As per normal, again, the travel from New Orleans took it out of me. Didn't get back until like 10 o'clock, so it would have been too late to do it anyway. But I'll be back with a live show midweek. I should be back with another standalone video for you tomorrow, so I'm still trying to slowly drip out some content for you to make up for not being there as per usual. But anyway, appreciate you guys. Consider subscribing if you have not. If you like Big 12 football, if you like conference realignment, if you like college football in general, it's what we're talking all the time here. The live chats are really, really fun. Support the channel on Venmo. It's John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you'd like to support the channel as well. And I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.